Well, folks, since the Razorback baseball season has officially come to an end, it's pretty much over with and done. The academic year of 2023 and 2024 for Razorback school, but also athletics, comes to an end. And oh my goodness, was it awful. I hate to be Mr. Negative here on a Monday in June, but it was awful. This was the worst year, academic year at least, that Razorback Sports have had. And I don't even think it's close. Let's take it back to football, shall we? You know, Arkansas went 4-8 in football this year. 4-8. They won their first two games. Western Carolina smoked them in Little Rock. They beat Kent State, but it did not look good. They struggled. And then they lost to BYU by a touchdown at home. And they lost to LSU by a field goal on the road. Then they lost by 12 to A&M and AT&T Stadium. Then by a touchdown to Ole Miss on the road. Then by a field goal to Alabama on the road. All of those games were frustrating, sucky, stupid, dumb, frustrating, all the adjectives that you wanted to use. But there were still part of people, myself included, that I'm like, hey, they're at least competitive. They're at least playing some games, and they played the hardest stretch of the schedule. Maybe can open it up and they can finish strong. Well, they didn't, because they followed all that up by losing a game to Mississippi State 7-3. My brothers in Christ, we witnessed a game in Reynolds Razorback Stadium that ended in regulation 7-3, and it wasn't because of a lightning delay. It wasn't because of some pandemic. It wasn't because just, people just stripped down naked and start dancing on the field in protest of some cause. No, this was truly a football game that went 60 minutes in regulation and ended at 7-3. After that, you went on the road after a bye week. You beat Florida finally for the first time in Gainesville since joining the SEC in overtime. And then you just entered into the season with a just destruction against Auburn and against Missouri at home in front of your home crowd. Football sucked. It was bad. And luckily, Bobby Petrino got hired as the offensive coordinator, and that was about the biggest win of the football season in 2023. We don't know what it's going to mean in 2024 in this upcoming season. People are hopeful. People might be, putting their hands together and praying that it's going to be better. But there's no guarantees of it. In fact, there may be reasons to think otherwise. It doesn't matter. It's just the way it is. You went 4-8. It was bad this past year. But everyone's like, hey, it's okay. Basketball, though. Basketball must. You got this team. Got these transfers. They're preseason top 10. They got people saying that this team's going to win the national championship. People predicting them to win the national championship. Trevin Brazile is healthy. You got Devo Davis back. You got Mekhi Mitchell, who was an experienced guy from the year before. And then you add in all these great transfers, like this guard named L. Ellis from Louisville. It was a scoring machine. Caleb Battle, he averaged all these points per game. And you got Tremont Mark, who was part of a Houston team that was just loaded and one of the best teams in the NCAA tournament the previous year. And then you had some added pieces that could add some depth, like a Jeremiah Davenport and so on and so forth and yada, yada, yada. Well, as we all know, all that excitement and all that pump and all that, just feeling good came to an end pretty quickly. You opened up in an exhibition game against Purdue, the preseason number one team, and the team that ended up playing in the national championship against UConn. Also had the reigning player of the year in Zach Edey coming to Fayetteville. Sure, the game didn't count, but at least was going to be a good way of measuring how your team was at that point in time. And you beat them in overtime, 81-77. Wow. You beat an experienced team with a lot of veterans that were preseason number one with the player of the year, reigning player of the year at home, and you beat them with a bunch of new players in an exhibition game in the early part. Shoot, if this is as bad as what Arkansas is going to be right now, we're all in on it. We're all for it. Well, time went on, and then you lost a game to UNC Greensboro at home. That was weird. Didn't really like that. But hey, slip-ups happen all the time, right? Just one game. Well, you go down to the bad boy mowers battle for Atlantis, and you need double overtime to beat a pretty sad, bad Stanford team. But hey, you won, though. That's all that matters. Then you beat Memphis, or you lose to Memphis in what was a frustrating way. And then you get beat pretty handily by North Carolina. Not the showing you wanted, but hey, you get Duke coming back. You can right the ship, right? Well, they do. They beat number 7 Duke. They end up storming the court, and it was an incredible scene. Back on top, baby, and you can end with Furman. The next week, take care of business. Well, then they went on the road to Oklahoma and got beat pretty handedly once again. Musk got ejected, wasn't feeling good. People are not sure about this team. They're not sure about them now. Well, got to wait till conference play because that's really where, Arkansas always gets it going in the middle of the late conference play. This is a time when they don't play their best, but they took care of business against Lipscomb barely, won by 3 down there in North Little Rock at Simmons Bank Arena. Beat Abilene Christian and beat UNC Wilmington, but the games still were fairly close. But you won. That's all that matters. SEC play arrives. You open up the series in the SEC season against Auburn on a Saturday in Bud Walton, and what do? You get trounced by 32 at home. 32 points at home. The worst loss you've ever suffered in Bud Walton history. You lost by 32 points. This is bad. You lose to Georgia the next week. Next game on the road by 10. Get smoked by Florida on the road. You're 0-3. You beat Texas A&M at home, but you had such a huge lead. You're up by 20, and you needed a buzzer beater by Tremont Mark to win. But you won. Then you get beat handedly by South Carolina. You get smoked by Ole Miss. You're competitive against Kentucky, but at home you still lose. And here you are at 1-6 in conference play, and the wheels are falling off like crazy. Luckily, you beat Missouri on the road because they were that bad. But then you go on the road and get trounced by LSU by 21. And you beat Georgia by 3. Then you get trounced by Tennessee at home by 30. You lose on the road to Mississippi State, which was a close game, probably should have won. And you finally beat Texas A&M on the road. But then you beat Missouri because Missouri sucks. But then you lose to a terrible Vanderbilt team at home. You lose to Kentucky. You beat LSU barely, and then you lose to Alabama. Games that may have been close, but it didn't matter. You beat Vanderbilt in overtime in the SEC tournament, but lose to South Carolina, and that's your season. That's how it comes to an end. I know it took a long time to go through it all, but it was important. It's just a friendly reminder of just how bad the basketball season was. You had your first losing season since the Pelfrey era. You went 16-17. You went 6-12 in conference play. Eric Musselman bounced and went to USC, and you were all left in a lurch. Now, we talked about what was the big win, or really the only win that the football team had when the hiring of Bobby Petrino, and there is no ifs, ands, buts about it, no questions, anything. You got the biggest win, which honestly is what helps erase what happened last year because you hired John frickin' Calipari. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. You hired John Calipari. The biggest win and what gives you all the vibes and all the good feelings, at least for me, it gives me the good feelings that everything's going to be okay in basketball. So, yeah, the future's great, and that's great. But the season this past year was atrocious and horrible. We'll continue to talk some of these other sports because I know you guys are all looking to do. Let's talk about something good. Let's talk about something positive here. Let's talk about our friends over at brothrow.com. Now, Brothrow, if you guys haven't checked it out, you're missing out because all of us love to do a little friendly wagers, some sports betting, right? We like to go up and see how much money we can win and everything. But there's nothing that's sweeter than betting against your friends or betting against real people. Not to where you're just betting against the house or anything where you could be losing some money and you have to lose some money to the juicing. No, betting against your friends because it's straight up. Brothrow.com is what gives you that. If you go to brothrow.com/natty, Natty, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, where you have each and all the games going on. Like, for instance, the NBA Finals. We know it's the Celtics and the Mavericks. Go C's. But in those games, you can go in and you can see, all right, well, what's the spread? Oh, the Celtics are favored by 6.5. I'm feeling pretty good about that. Oh, but I see Chris P over here. He put $200 down on Mavericks plus 6.5. That's easy money. I'm going to take the bet going the opposite direction. I think the Celtics are going to win by 10 points. And I think that they're going to take care of business, so I'll put $200 up against Chris P. And when it comes to an end, you settle up. You can do it easily with Venmo, the Cash App. It's that simple. So Head over to brothrow.com/natty, Natty. Also use code Natty. Join the Natty State Sports Group. You can get to betting in the community, betting some money, and you're saving a ton on juice savings. It's that simple. It's that awesome. So check it out today at brothrow.com/natty. All right, so we talked about football being terrible, talked about basketball being terrible, and I don't think we really need to run through the baseball side of things because it's so fresh. We all know what happened. It wasn't necessarily a terrible season, but it was a disappointing one because that's how I look at it, is that football and basketball were failures. Baseball was just a disappointment. I don't think it was a failure of a season because you did win the SEC West. You were a national seed. You did have Hagen Smith. Like you won 20 SEC games. I don't think you can ever justify that as a failure. I can just it, and I do just it as a disappointment, an epic disappointment. So we don't have to run through all that, but we know what happened. We know that Arkansas was a really good baseball team that fell short at home against SEMO in Kansas State. Ugh. Two teams that they should have won easily, but they didn't, and it came to an end. But even if you take over some other things too, like, you know, I think back to something like the women's basketball. It went 18-15, 6-10 in conference. Wasn't great. And a lot of people are really getting after Coach Mike Nabors and saying that, a lot of people even wanted him gone or wanted him to move on or whatever it is, but they were not happy with the way that it all went. And even softball, which has gone very popular here at Arkansas, especially lately, thanks to Courtney Deifel and the success. It wasn't a bad year for the softball team, but it wasn't great. They went 37-18, 14-10 in conference play, and they ended up going into a regional where they went 1-2. They did beat SEMO, if you can believe it, 3-2, but lost to Arizona 2-1, and then got smoked by Villanova 7-2, and that was all she wrote. So I know I went through a lot there, and I know, folks, there's other sports that have success. I know the track teams had success, so don't misconstrue what I'm trying to say. But you cannot, as a Razorback fan, look back upon the 2023-2024 school year and really be happy with anything. Like, you can't look back and be like, that was a fun time, wasn't it? Put it into context. What was the biggest highlight? What was the greatest moment? What was the most exciting thing that you saw from Razorback Sports this past school year? Like, seriously. Was it beating Duke in men's basketball? And anything else? I mean, Hagen Smith's 17 strikeouts against Oregon State was pretty cool. That was a really good one. Anything else? I can't think of anything. And that's bad. You think about the history of Arkansas sports. Yes, certain sports have been better than others. Yes, bad years happen to teams. It's just sheer coincidence. But if you think back to some of the worst years that has happened in Razorback sports, there was always some other sport that helped counter that. For instance, 2018 and 2019 were the worst years for Razorback football ever under the Chad Morris regime. But luckily, those years were great for baseball. You know, went to the World Series, so close to winning a championship. But you're at least able to count on that. But think about even the 2017 year. You know, baseball ended in the regional against Missouri State. And football wasn't great necessarily, but no, basketball, you didn't do too bad. In fact, you kind of got screwed because you should have beaten North Carolina. Should have. But didn't happen. But still, at least you had some fun during that year. At least you went 12-6 in SEC play, 26-10 overall. Solid year. We could bring up examples all day long, but my point that I'm making is that it seemed every single year, at least in my lifetime, at least when joining the SEC, you always had something to lean back on. You always had something, some sort of sport, some sort of season. They say, hey, well, this sucked and this sucked, but this was great. Or this sucked, but hey, this and this were great. You always have had that. And this past year, you haven't. It's been a really, really tough time for Razorback fans. And I sympathize with you. I hate it. As somebody who has a company in Natty State Sports, I don't care what anybody says. People call me a homer or whatever. That's fine. But at the end of the day, we all want Arkansas to succeed, especially at the major sports, because it's better for people's moods. It's better for mental health. It's better for financially for the economy of the Northwest Arkansas area. It's better for companies like mine, like Natty State Sports, where the more excitement that there is for sports, the more people who are involved, the more that advertisers are coming in and all of that. Like, that's always a big key component of it, just to be honest. So, yeah, I mean, we all want Arkansas to do well for our own particular reasons. You as a fan, you want Arkansas to do well because you're a fan. You love them. You treat them as big a part of your life as anything. You want to punch them in the face when they upset you, but you want to hug them and kiss them, play a little tonsil hockey with them anytime that they end up doing something great. But I am hoping, and I am hopeful, that this next year for Razorback athletics will be a complete and total 180. But it's the old adage goes, you can hope in one hand and what in the other and see which fills up first. Can't agree more. However, even that being said, even all of you feeling that way, no matter what it is, there are still reasons to believe it'll be a complete 180. That every single one of these sports, the sports that you care about the most, every single one of them, there's reasons to believe that it will improve and that it will be better. And we'll talk about that here in just a second. But folks, I got to tell you about our friends over at Alumni Hall. Now, we know that the Razorback baseball season unfortunately came to an end. But hey, that does not mean that you got to toss all your clothes out and burn them at the stake because you're never going to wear Razorback clothes anymore. Well, maybe some of you have. But most of you are probably going to be pretty reasonable and pretty rational. Well, great news for you. Alumni Hall has everything that you could possibly want as a Razorback fan when it comes to all things apparel and decor. It's the ultimate Razorback shopping experience. When you go into the store, you will be blown away by the amount of Razorback items that they have. And I'm not just talking about for the guys. I'm talking about for men, for women, for children. They even got stuff for the pets. And they have the highest end of clothing and apparel. Something as simple and something as awesome as, say, Columbia. Ever heard of it? Peter Millar. Ever heard of it? Johnny O. Ever heard of it? Southern Tide. Ever heard of it? Oh, yeah, I know you have because you're stylish. You got good style. Well, then Alumni Hall is the place for you. They got it all. And they're conveniently located on College, right there in Fayetteville. But some of you who may not be able to get over to that location, don't fear. Don't sweat it. Because they have a website you can go to, and you can see their entire catalog, and it's nattystatesports.com/alumni hall. It's nattystatesports.com/alumni hall. You can go on there, check out their entire catalog, see all the things that they have to offer. No problems, no issues. Get it delivered to your door. Make it the ultimate Razorback shopping experience with all the things for Razorback apparel. It's Alumni Hall here in Fayetteville. All right, so hope. Those of you who are Shawshank Redemption fans, which I think everybody is, every time I hear that word, I think of that. Some of you may think of Star Wars, which is also relatable. But I'll use the example of Shawshank Redemption. Andy in that movie talked about hope. And he said that hope is a great thing, the best of things. And a great thing never dies. I think it was something like that. It's maybe not verbatim, but you get what I'm saying. Hope is all we have, folks. Why are you a fan of the Razorbacks? You could sit there and say, it's one because my dad, because my mom, because my family. I went there. I had a friend that played there. I was a fan of this player, all that. All acceptable answers. But if you really want to get deep into it and dive into it, why are you a Razorback fan? It's because you hope that one day your favorite team, the Arkansas Razorbacks, will win a national title in a sport you truly and deeply care about. You hope for that. That's why you're a fan. You want it to be great. You want it to win a championship. You want it. You want it so bad you can taste it. But it's so difficult to do. It's dadgum near impossible. But that's why you're a fan, is because you hope. And when you hope for something, what are you hoping to get out of a return? Pardon the expression. Your hope or your faith, whatever you want to put, you put it into that team and into that sport because you know what the feeling is going to be like. You know what the feeling is going to be like when that time comes. Or at least you have an idea of what that feeling will be like. I hate to get biblical on y'all. And I'm not being disrespectful and not being sacrilegious or anything. I'm just trying to make a comparison, which I think is a good one. We'll see. See how this works out. But being a fan is like striving to get to heaven. You know, you put a lot of faith in it, you put a lot of hope in it, and you just hope that, when that day comes, it's going to be as amazing and as incredible as I believe and that I've been told and that I've seen and that I've experienced. Like you just believe in it. And it's going to be that way. It's going to be a feeling you've never had before, and it's a feeling that you just want so badly. That's like the whole reason of being a fan. You want to be a fan, and you are a fan because you know one day, whenever that happens, and hopefully it happens soon, but that one day when it all goes down, that you are going to feel that great, ecstatic energy that you've never experienced before and that only select few get to experience. That is what you want. That is how you feel. That, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, that, my friends, is what it's all about. And that's what you strive to have. And so when you saw this past year go the way it did, got the Thunders out there. When you see this past year and the way that it went down, I use the expression, oh Lord, it's hard to be hopeful when you're an Arkansas Razorback fan. Because it feels that way. The years that you feel like they're going to be great end up not being great. The teams that you feel like got it all end up falling short. The times that you feel you can finally have something over your relatives that are fans of other schools or whatnot, that, that time where you're like, hey, we got this. When you can't say that, it makes it tough. It's hard to have pride in something that you're not proud of. But I'm telling you that this upcoming year, at least for the three major sports, potentially, and in some cases, I'd even guarantee, are going to be better than what it was a year ago. You went 4-8 last year in football. That sucked. You don't want to ever experience that again. You don't want to go through that again. I don't want to go through that again. But because of Bobby Petrino, because of the offensive changes that you've made, because of seeing how close and competitive you were last year to a lot of these teams that were really good, and considering the home schedule you have, will it be a 6-win increase getting to 10 wins? I'm not going to bet on that. But will it be better than 4-8? Yeah, it will be. I'm going to bet on it. Anything basketball. Past year, crap. Especially when you had the previous 3 years where you went 8-3 in the NCAA tournament. 3 straight Sweet 16s, 2 Elite 8 appearances. Some of the most fun that I know I've ever had as a Razorback fan, and I'm sure it's a lot of fun for you too. But you went 16-17 this past year. Is it going to be better next year? Oh, I guarantee it will be. That we all can guarantee it will be. Seeing the team that John Calipari's putting together, the roster, the talent, and the fact that you got frickin' John Calipari as your head coach. Yeah. And Kentucky fans always say, all right, good luck losing the first round of the tournament. Well, guess what, morons? Arkansas didn't make the tournament last year. So as long as they get to the tournament, that's at least improvement. Now, granted, you want to advance. We all want to advance. And I think Arkansas is going to be a good enough and talented enough team to make a run into the Final Four. I do. But I also know that it's going to be an improved year from last season. Arkansas is not going to go 16-17 or worse. I think we all feel good about that. And then in baseball, I know I talked about the offensive adjustments that Van Horn needs to make or that everybody wants him to make and everything. But I'm telling you, if he makes those, which I believe he will, but if he makes those and really puts it in and gets some big-time players out of the transfer portal, which I think they will, gets the much-needed help in those particular positions, which I believe he will, get some pitching. You're losing out on so many guys, which you will. Yeah, I think that it can be better than Arkansas going 1-2 in postseason next year. Yeah, I think it can be a little bit better and will be better than what we saw this past season. I'd guarantee it. I'd put money on it. If I could bet on it right now, to bet on Razorback baseball making it further than 1-2 in a regional in postseason next year, I am. I'm betting on it. Now, you can go into women's basketball. Is there much confidence in that? Maybe not. Softball, maybe so. But when we're talking about the big three sports, reasons to believe, reasons to get excited, reason to think that it's all going to be okay. That's why. It's going to be better, folks. It's going to be better. It sucks to be a Razorback fan sometimes. It does. I have grown up being a Razorback fan and a Jets fan. All I've known in my life of sports has been disappointment. But I continue to strive on and continue to hope. Because I think one day it's going to happen. I believe it. It's not always going to be perfect. Years aren't always going to go the way I want. And I hope to never experience a year that we just had, where there was just nothing good, nothing positive, at least what happened on the field or on the court. Just nothing really to point to talk trash about. But I believe and I hope. And I think Arkansas has the right tools in place and the right people in place to make it better. Hang in there, hey, Razorback fans. Just hang in there. I know a lot of you aren't going to bail. Like it's not like you're filing for a divorce against your favorite team. Although some of you may have drawn up the papers for it. You're still going to be a Razorback fan. But truly ask yourself, folks, ask yourself, do you feel better now about next year than what we saw and witnessed this past year? And you can take it by sport. Do you feel better about football? I mean, I do. Maybe you don't. But I think you could make logical and reasonable explanations as to why the team's going to win more than 4 games. Basketball, is it going to be better? If any of you think basketball's not going to be better, then maybe you need to file for those divorce papers. In baseball, well, we'll have to see. It's too new, but would it surprise you if it did? Would it surprise you at all if next year Arkansas made it further than 1-2 in the regionals? Would it surprise you? Absolutely not. So that's my whole point. Just hang in there, Razorback fans. It's going to be okay. It sucks now, but it's going to be all right. Let's have some fun this summer, huh? Enjoy the time with family and going out and traveling, going to the beaches and to the pools, and just enjoy that time. Football season will be here before we know it. And I know that all of us, me included, and especially me, is going to talk ourselves into why this team's going to win 8 games. Maybe. But just enjoy your time, folks. Put this past year behind you and look forward to the future. Because the future in all Razorback sports is bright. Some bulbs may be brighter than others, but it's bright. Just hang in there.